Okay, maybe we can begin so that after this is all finished, we can have a peace of mind and sort of entertain ourselves and enjoy ourselves. So thank you so much for all of you for coming out here for our special 25 years of CSPT. And this is our social for this year in this very special place. Just before I start, I want to tell you our itinerary for this event. So unfortunately, I'll be your MC for tonight, and this is something I have not done in my life before, so I'm going to do it. Forgive me for that. Then I will have some opening remarks. Many thanks are due, many accomplishments are to be mentioned, and so on and so forth. So I'll be a little formal, unfortunately. Then we will have Dr. Warren Magnusson and Dr. Rob Walker speak, and then we will be joined by Dr. Katherine Krull, the Dean of Social Sciences, Dr. John Archibald, the Dean of Humanities, Dr. Margot Wilson, Acting Dean of Graduate Studies. That's lovely. And then we have a small student representation. So let me begin by thanking you and telling you how great it is to see you all here in this special CSPT Social. It celebrates a quarter of a century of the longest running interdisciplinary program at the University of Victoria. CSPT was envisioned, as I'm sure you all know, by Warren Magnusson and Rob Walker from political science, by Bill Carroll and Reddy Warburton from sociology, by John Michelson and Monica Langer from philosophy in late 1980s. In 1988, the program was founded, and in 1989, it recruited its first students. In the early 1990s, the first director and the co-founder of CSPT program, Warren Magnusson, described CSPT as a program for the 21st century. And the time has proven him right. CSPT has constantly been a point of attraction for graduate studies in the participating departments, English, history, political science, and sociology, as well as the interdisciplinary studies program, the individual interdisciplinary studies. Currently, there are 30 faculty members associated with CSPT from across 9 different departments on campus. The program is one of the only 5 comparable programs in graduate theory across Canada, and it is the only one in Western Canada. CSPT is unique, of course, as I'm sure you all know. That's why you're here, actually. It's unique in that it allows you to have a graduate training, graduate designation in theory, while you also hold a universally recognizable disciplinary degree from a university. So this unique feature is viewed in conjunction with the theoretical training that is provided through CSPT courses and mentorship, and it translates into impressive success rates of CSPT graduate students, or graduates, I must say, in finding employment or entering PhD programs in case of our MA students, or finding faculty positions as our recent PhDs have done. We have a lot of success stories associated with our students. So we are naturally very happy about this, especially given that in the past 20 years, or as far as our statistics could go back, we have over 100 CSPT students graduating from the program. So CSPT would not be possible without the continued support of the Deans of Social Sciences, Humanities, and Graduate Studies. To deliver quality and specialized training for our students, CSPT needs sustained commitments from the university in the years to come. It also needs to reach out across disciplinary lines, and in this relation, I'm thrilled to announce that the CSPT program will soon be joined by its 5th participating department, School of Environmental Studies. In an adverse global environment in which there is a push by policymakers for certificate-oriented training at the cost of comprehensive and balanced education in the arts, social sciences, and humanities. As the director of the CSPT program, I'm encouraged by the position taken last April by UVic President Dr. Jamie Castles and SFU President Dr. Andrew Pedder, who declared that the emphasis on training should not disregard the intellectual expertise needed for the future. I think I speak on behalf of CSPT faculty as well as some 50 CSPT students that the future success of an already very fruitful program will depend on the concerted effort of all of us here at UVic in supporting our dear program and its new events and initiatives. CSPT upholds the values of fairness, equity, and inclusiveness. It promotes a collective space built on collegial relations, friendship, and egalitarianism amongst both faculty and students. It is a model for democratic participatory citizenship, and this is how it has thrived for so long. For all the efforts dedicated by faculty and students in running the program every year, from CSPT seminars to our events, to CSPT colloquia, to the CSPT annual student conference, which is gaining international reputation at the moment. The program is destined for greater national and international reputation, for emerging as a growing critical intellectual community, for having measurable public impact and knowledge mobilization, and for offering one of the best interdisciplinary graduate programs in Canada. So let me finish by two notes. These are personal notes. Since July 2013, when I became the director of CSPT, I've had the distinct pleasure of working closely with the Director of Office of Interdisciplinary Academic Programs, Dr. Katherine Burnett. She is a wonderful supporter of interdisciplinary studies and a persistent advocate of CSPT. So, Katherine, thank you so much. Also, I would like to bring to your attention that every detail about this wonderful event here, and every detail about everything you do in this program is carried out by Karen Irwin. Karen has always meticulously taken care of the smallest detail of the program, taking care of all of your claims and all of your registration and everything on the daily basis, and I'm really very indebted to Karen. So thank you so much. Once again, thank you all for coming to our event, and I asked Professor Magnusson to give us a few words of wisdom.
Okay, thanks, Peyman. As Rob was saying to the deans just a moment ago, CSPT has always had great faculty and great students, but until recently, spotty administration. And I have to say that the new generation of people who've taken over the administration of CSPT, first Nicole Shukin from English and now Peyman Vahabzadeh of sociology, have been just doing a brilliant job, and we really owe them a great thanks. So I'd like to when Peyman asked me to say a few words, the thing that occurred to me that, of course, it was 25 years ago, this September, that I taught the first CSPT seminar. Not only was I the inaugural director of the program, but under the arrangement that we worked out, under what was then called the Contemporary Social and Political Thought Program, each of us who was participating would offer a seminar in turn. And in those days, the rule was that if you were going to offer the seminar in the following term, you sat in on the seminar that was offered in that term. So in that first term, I was leading the seminar, and Bill Carroll sat in on the seminar because he gave it in January. But of course, it being 25 years ago, I thought to myself, what was the topic? I don't imagine that Bill remembers either. Maybe I have a record of it. And then it occurred to me, did I even have a computer in which I wrote the outline? And if so, was I using a word processing program that could be read now? Fortunately, the answer to both questions is yes. So, this morning I printed out the outline for the very first CSPT seminar. And the topic was state, democracy, community. And it reflects interest that I had then and now. Essentially the relationship between the state, democracy, and community, the problem of the disjuncture of those three things in relation to the routinized idea that the state had to be a nation state, and that a nation state, as long as it was constituted as a representative democracy, would provide what was necessary. And obviously we recognized even back then that was a rather problematic idea. So the seminar was organized around that problem, and we were very fortunate, I see, from the outline. There were two visitors that term, both of them under the Lansdowne Visitor Program, and each of whom was sponsored in some way that I can't remember now, by CSPT as well as by another department. The first visitor was Bill Connolly, William E. Connolly from Johns Hopkins University, who was already a highly established figure. Was actually the supervisor of one of our current CSPT members. And the other was James C. Scott, anthropologist and political scientist at Yale University, who hadn't yet written the book that I keep referring to, which is this book called Seeing Like a State. But he had written a book called Weapons of the Weak, which was very famous. So those two people gave talks that were part of the CSPT seminar and were open more generally. And then the other thing that I noticed in looking at the outline, and this is a warning to all students in it, and a symptom of decline. Because I noticed rather than asking for a minor paper and a major paper, I asked for two major papers. And then there's a list of readings. I said that you could do your first paper on an older thinker, which sort of 19th century, early 20th century, and one on a contemporary thinker. And then I gave a list of possibilities that covers an entire page. People you could write about.
We suffered so you didn't have to.
It's really a pleasure to see so many of you here. And it's wonderful to think that this idea that a few of us had, including Rob and Bill, in the mid-1980s, that we ought to create some sort of graduate program that would bring students together from a variety of different disciplines who nonetheless shared an interest in particular thinkers whose work transcended any kind of disciplinary boundaries. That idea has actually worked. Our initial budget, and I remember this very well, for the CSPT program, was $700 a year, which the deans thought was very generous. They also paid for some course release for us to teach the CSPT seminars, but that was all. And somehow that $700 has mushroomed into all of us, and I thank you all.
I want to say this on the tape so that Warren, you let us view a historical document, and I'm trying to collect those, so I want that, please. I must say actually that Warren is my, I was a shared fund postdoc here, and Warren was my supervisor.
He was mine as well.
There we go. So our next speaker, please, Professor Rob Walker.
Thank you. Before I forget, I simply need to thank everybody that's ever been associated with CSPT. The faculty I've worked with, the students I've taught. I've learned more from students than ever learned from me. I have to say I think the intellectual community around CSPT has been as strong, powerful, and innovative as any exercise I've seen anywhere else in any other institution, and I've been around a little bit. So I simply want to say thank you for the experience. I also wanted to say something to the effect that CSPT is a product of its time. Its time is almost forgotten. In four respects, I think it's worth saying it's a product of its time. One, simply the emphasis upon theory. It's called thought, because theory is sort of a dangerous term. Everyone has their hands on theory and thinks they do theory. And so our use of theory had a certain political and intellectual intonation. But it was a period in which theory was beginning to have a certain heightened awareness, partly in relation to continental European trends, partly in relation to the late stages of the Cold War, partly in relation to the origins of what we now call neoliberalism, I guess, the switch from state law to economic law, perhaps. And theory became a kind of a shared language of many younger scholars trying to create something new. And I think in the end that is what holds the program together intellectually, the shared understanding that theory is important. Theory will kill you in the end, just as much as any gun. And that theory is undervalued in many institutions simply because it doesn't have such an immediate practical payoff. So theory was an important thing. Interdisciplinarity, I think, was also very important. We were a very innovative program in relation to the way in which we try to link different departments. One would have to say that most of the problems of our time, still, increasingly so, cannot be studied by any single discipline. Every discipline is professionally incompetent in much of its subject matter. And one has to think about how those competencies that they do have can be brought together. And I would have to say that CSPT has played an important role in pushing the University of Victoria, as one has to do in many other institutions, towards some kind of interdisciplinary front. A concern with new problems. We all face radically new problems: globalization, urbanization, the environment, feminism, indigeneity, all kinds of things. Well, many of those are now highly institutionalized at UVic and elsewhere, but 25 years ago there was not such a force in the university, and I would have to say that CSPT can and should claim some responsibility for pushing, chiding, and encouraging students to think about some of the problems we now take as normal parts of the university curriculum. A fourth thing would be try to think about new forms of political action. At that particular point, new kinds of problems pushed all kinds of questions out about the limits of the way we thought about social, political, cultural action. And one of the things we pushed a lot, I think, is the social movement. Social movements are now taken very seriously in many contexts. Again, CSPT, I think, introduced that problem as a serious way of thinking about how one acts in the world on the basis of a theoretical orientation or indeed otherwise. And fifthly, and not least, we knew how to act under conditions of some financial constraint. Warren refers to the budget, but it's not just the first budget. We have acted with a very, very limited set of resources. And I doubt that there's any other part of the university that has such brilliant students and such interesting faculty working with such a limited range of financial and institutional resources. Now, I would have to say this is not necessarily a complaint, because theory actually doesn't take a lot of money. It does take a lot of commitment. It does take a lot of collective action. It does take a lot of intellectual imagination. And that's precisely how CSPT has worked for 25 years. I think it has been an extraordinary exercise in the collective integration of people coming from very different traditions, working with students who are very smart to begin with, and go on and do very, very interesting things in many, many different settings. And it's the capacity to work with limited resources and yet to be so creative in the face of many, many difficulties, both intellectual and institutional and in the broader world, that I think is the mark of the success of this particular program. And I'm very grateful for it, and I hope it may long continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So our next speaker is Dr. Katherine Krull. She's the new Dean of Social Sciences, coming from Queen's University, and we have a great pleasure to have her speak to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peyman. Well, first I'd like to say congratulations and happy 25th anniversary. This is really quite an accomplishment. I'd like to particularly congratulate the founders of CSPT, the faculty and who participate in the program, and to all current and past students. The Faculty of Social Science was an early champion of CSPT back in 1988, and my predecessor, Peter Keller, strongly supported the program during his deanship. I too have a passion for CSPT, a program that brings so much to the social sciences, a program that encourages our brightest students to grapple with the big issues of our time. A program run by dedicated faculty from different backgrounds and disciplines who find common ground to teach students how to be critical thinkers and intellectually curious about the world. I myself have long engaged in interdisciplinary programs through my own research and teaching, and I must say that one of the things that really attracted me about UVic was their commitment to interdisciplinary programs. I'd heard and I'd read about CSPT before coming here, but I have to say that it's been really taking the time in the last few weeks getting ready for today and learning as much as I could about the program that I began to realize it's not just a strong program. It is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, interdisciplinary programs in Canada. Interdisciplinarity is more than a catchy word. It speaks to the culture and the social sciences to cross academic borders, to create new connections with people and ideas, and it's not easy to do. Many universities have tried to create interdisciplinary programs. Many departments and units, claim that they're interdisciplinary, and, not really understanding it has to be more than just saying, I'm coming to this topic from this perspective. This program certainly has got it right, and this long history shows it. The fact that there's so many people in this room today shows it. I look forward to supporting this program as it continues to grow and succeed in offering graduate students a challenging and academically vigorous program. Thank you.
Invite Dr. John Archibald in Humanities.
Thank you very much, Peyman. So like others, it gives me great pleasure to be part of the anniversary celebrations here today. It really is an astonishing run and a testament to the inspiration, dedication of the scholars and teachers that the program has thrived. Across the continent, we certainly know the challenges that graduate education in liberal arts is faced. There are many governments, many parts of society that have placed pressures on and questioned the value of liberal arts education. I think one of the things we see in all the component parts of the CSPT is the different ways in which we learn. I'd often say that we learn sometimes by reading an essay, sometimes by reading a poem, by reading a book. And I think that simplistic dichotomy is telling when we look at the contributions of the CSPT current students from disciplines such as sociology and political science, history and English literature, and seeing that just a selection, some of the current students working on projects like the nature of state surveillance, the sacred and spiritual meaning in a secular state, the narrative foundations of capitalism, and the history of environmental protest movements, we can see clearly the value and relevance of these topics in today's society. There's an American statistician, W. Edwards Deming, is famous for saying, "It's not necessary to change. Survival is not mandatory." And to my mind, we see clear evidence in this program of how innovation really is, or can be, built into the Academy as we seek to explore and create and define new knowledge and new ways of knowing. So CSPT has really shown how innovative programs can be and can be sustained over a long period of time. So to all the people here who have helped build and to sustain the program, congratulations. To those of you who are here building its future, I say thank you on behalf of the Faculty of Humanities. So let me conclude on the CSPT side, acronym side of things, with the words of Hannah Arendt. There are no dangerous thoughts. Thinking itself is dangerous. So keep thinking.
Thank you so much. So, I invite Dr. Margot Wilson, Acting Dean of Graduate Studies, to give us a few words.
Thank you for inviting me to celebrate with you today. I'm just delighted to be here on behalf of the Faculty of Graduate Studies. I bring you greetings and congratulations and regrets from Dean David Kapson. Unfortunately, he's not able to be with us today, but it then becomes my great pleasure to be here. When you come to the end of a long line of very articulate speakers, it's kind of like being the supervisor in the final oral defense. There are no questions left, and there are no compliments left. But let me say, wow, 25 years. It's brilliant. This is, one of the flagship programs in the Faculty of Graduate Studies. You guys led the way and continue to lead the way in terms of interdisciplinarity. There are lots of others who have come in behind. We've got a broad range of interdisciplinary programs, but you were blazing the trail for the rest of us who followed. So congratulations and well done. When I was thinking about what I would say today, I decided that I would check with institutional analysis. So just to expand on what you said, Peyman, I wanted to share some numbers with you. The most recent numbers from institutional analysis says there have been 112 graduates from the CSPT program, 6 PhDs and 106 master's students since 1992, when the first 2 students graduated. And I thought I would give you some interesting statistics about where those students came from. English, 24 students. History, 3. Political science is taking the lion's share at 60. Sociology at 22. And then 3 undetermined, I don't know whether they're individual interdisciplinary students or what, but 3 CSPT purists graduated. So let me say congratulations. I'm just delighted to be here. It's a wonderful program. Those of you who are in it know that. Those of you who have graduated from it know that. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, last but not least, we have a presentation by 3 student representatives. But before, chaos kicks in, I must remind all these students that after the event is finished and all the food has been consumed, you have to stay here, work with me to organize the next year's events, and so create the committees and so on. So there's a lot of hard work. I don't, provide food for free, right? so stay back and don't leave. We are going to have a lot of fun organizing ourselves for this year's event. So I have Joanna from Political Science, Katherine from Political Science, and Nick from Sociology to give us a few words.
Thank you. Well, the organizers of this 25th CSPT anniversary have asked the 3 of us to pay tribute to those professors that founded CSPT and they're still active professors at UVic. And I'm here particularly to give a thanks to Professor Rob Walker, who I work with, and who's my supervisor. I work with and against. I was going to say that, I forgot. And thank you for your work as supervising countless students through all these years. And I think that I wanted to just to say that the main contributions, the most important contributions that you made to this program, I think, is your work in world politics and post-colonial theory that enabled many of us students, not known Canadians, international, so-called international students, to come and be part of this program. And so, as a token of our gratitude for all you have done, I would like you to accept this gift.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to present this gift to my supervisor who encouraged me to come to UVic several years ago now and join the CSPT program, and who I still have the great pleasure of working with today, Bill Carroll. Bill, you're the best.
I have no idea what this is, but I have something to present to Warren Magnusson. And I was just going to note, as a graduate student, probably the first thing that you're ever asked is who your supervisor is. And I've noticed that wherever I'm asked that question, and it doesn't matter whether it's locally or pretty much anywhere in the world, when I tell people who my supervisor is, one of the most common reactions is, "Oh, you're so lucky." And it's very true.
Feel free to open and show.
Be careful, they might break. So, while you're exploring, I would like to thank you all for coming here. And enjoy yourselves. Thank you.